Chapter 13. That same day Jesus went out of the house and sat beside the sea, and great crowds gathered about him, so that he got into a boat and sat down, and the whole crowd stood on the beach. And he told them many things in parables, saying, A sower went out to sow, and as he sowed, some seeds fell along the path, and the birds came and devoured them. Other seeds fell on rocky ground where they did not have much soil, and immediately they sprang up, since they had no depth of soil. But when the sun rose, they were scorched, and since they had no root, they withered away. Other seeds fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked them. Other seeds fell on good soil and produced grain, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. He who has ears, let him hear. Then the disciples came and said to him, Why do you speak to them in parables? And he answered them, To you it has been given to know the secrets of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it has not been given. For to the one who has, more will be given, and he will have an abundance, but from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. This is why I speak to them in parables, because seeing they do not see, and hearing they do not hear, nor do they understand. Indeed, in their case, the prophecy of Isaiah is fulfilled that says, You will indeed hear, but never understand, and you will indeed see, but never perceive. For this people's heart has grown dull, and with their ears they can barely hear, and their eyes they have closed, lest they should see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and turn, and I would heal them. But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. For truly I say to you, many prophets and righteous people longed to see what you see, and did not see it, and to hear what you hear, and did not hear it. Hear then the parable of the sower. When anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what has been sown in his heart. This is what was sown along the path. As for what was sown on rocky ground, this is the one who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy. Yet he has no root in himself, but endures for a while, and when tribulation or persecution arises on account of the word, immediately he falls away. As for what was sown among thorns, this is the one who hears the word, but the cares of the world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word, and it proves unfruitful. As for what was sown on good soil, this is the one who hears the word and understands it. He indeed bears fruit and yields in one case 100-fold, in another 60, and in another 30. He put another parable before them, saying, The kingdom of heaven may be compared to a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while his men were sleeping, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and went away. So when the plants came up and bore grain, then the weeds appeared also. And the servants of the master of the house came and said to him, Master, did you not sow good seed in your field? How then does it have weeds? He said to them, An enemy has done this. So the servant said to him, Then do you want us to go and gather them? But he said, No, lest in gathering the weeds you should root up the wheat along with them. Let both grow together until the harvest, and at harvest time I will tell the reapers, Gather the weeds first, and bind them in bundles to be burned, but gather the wheat into my barn. He put another parable before them, saying, The kingdom of heaven is like a grain of mustard seed, that a man took and sowed in his field. It is the smallest of all seeds, but when it has grown, it is larger than all the garden plants, and becomes a tree, so that the birds of the air come and make nests in its branches. He told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like leaven that a woman took and hid in 3 measures of flour, till it was all leavened. All these things Jesus said to the crowds in parables. Indeed, he said nothing to them without a parable. This was to fulfill what was spoken by the prophet. I will open my mouth in parables. I will utter what has been hidden since the foundation of the world. Then he left the crowds and went into the house, and his disciples came to him, saying, "Explain to us the parable of the weeds of the field." He answered, "The one who sows the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world, and the good seed is the sons of the kingdom. The weeds are the sons of the evil one, and the enemy who sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the age, and the reapers are angels. Just as the weeds are gathered and burned with fire, so will it be at the end of the age. The Son of Man will send his angels, and they will gather out of his kingdom all causes of sin and all lawbreakers, and throw them into the fiery furnace. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous will shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. He who has ears, let him hear. The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field, which a man found and covered up. Then in his joy he goes and sells all that he has and buys that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant in search of fine pearls, who, on finding one pearl of great value, went and sold all that he had and bought it. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a net that was thrown into the sea and gathered fish of every kind. When it was full, men drew it ashore and sat down and sorted the good into containers, but threw away the bad. So it will be at the end of the age. The angels will come out and separate the evil from the righteous, and throw them into the fiery furnace. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Have you understood all these things? They said to him, Yes. And he said to them, Therefore every scribe who has been trained for the kingdom of heaven is like a master of a house, who brings out of his treasure what is new and what is old. And when Jesus had finished these parables, he went away from there, and coming to his hometown, he taught them in their synagogue, so that they were astonished and said, Where did this man get this wisdom and these mighty works? Is not this the carpenter's son? Is not his mother called Mary? And are not his brothers James and Joseph and Simon and Judas? And are not all his sisters with us? Where then did this man get all these things? And they took offense at him. But Jesus said to them, A prophet is not without honor except in his hometown and in his own household. And he did not do many mighty works there because of their unbelief.
Matthew 13. This chapter opens with the fact that he proceeded to suit his actions to his words. He left the narrow confines of the house, and went forth to the open air and the sea being symbolic of the nations. There he began to teach the multitude from a boat, using the parabolic method. This chapter contains 7 parables. We will begin by noticing the expression he used in verse 52, things new and old, for this will help us as to the drift of the parables. Old things are mentioned, the kingdom of heaven for instance, which was predicted in Daniel, but new things predominate. We will point out 4 new things before looking at the parables in any detail. First, he adopted a new method of teaching, the parabolic. The new method struck the disciples, as verse 10 shows. Second, he indicated in the first parable a new method of divine working. Instead of looking for fruit as the result of God's husbandry through law and prophets, he was going to sow the word to produce fruit. Third, he makes known developments which give a new meaning to the term, kingdom of heaven. Fourth, he utters new revelations, opening his mouth to utter things, kept secret from the foundation of the world, as verse 35 says. The first parable stands by itself, and except we understand it we shall not understand the others. The great work now was to be the sowing of the word of the kingdom in the hearts of men. This does not accord any special place to the Jew. In verse 19, Jesus said, When anyone hears, so that opened the door to each hearer of the word, whoever he might be. What was needed was to hear with understanding. Militating against that are the activities of the devil, the fickleness of the flesh, and the cares and riches of the world. But the word is received by some, and fruit produced in varying measures. This method of divine working is still in vogue. It characterizes the day in which we live. Christianity is based not upon what it finds in man but upon what it produces by the power of God. The disciples were puzzled by the change to a parable. Their inquiry elicited from the Lord the fact that he adopted this way of teaching so that the mysteries or secrets of the kingdom of heaven might be hidden from the unbelieving mass and only revealed to those who believed. Those who unbelievingly had rejected the Lord had closed their eyes to the truth. Now he spoke in parables so that they might be left in their unbelief. Thus Isaiah's prophecy was to be fulfilled in them. The same prophecy is quoted by John in his Gospel, John 12 verse 40. It is quoted also by Paul for a third and last time in the closing chapter of Acts. It was just the working of the government of God. For believers the parables are very instructive, and, as verse 17 says, they help to bring to the knowledge of the disciples things desired but never seen by prophets and righteous men in earlier days. Even the disciples, however, needed the explanation which the Lord furnished, in order to understand the parable of the sower, and, this given to them, Jesus proceeded to utter 3 more parables in the ears of the multitude. Only when the crowd had been dismissed and he had retired into a house with his disciples did he furnish the explanation of the second parable. It is evident therefore that the first 4 were uttered in public, and deal with the outer manifestations of the kingdom, whereas the last 3 were spoken privately, and deal with its inner and more hidden reality. The first parable, as we have indicated, gives us the key to all the rest, showing us that the kingdom is to be established as the result of the sowing of the word of the kingdom, and not as the fruit of obedience to the existing law of Moses. This fact established, all the other parables tell us what the kingdom of heaven is like, and each of these 6 similitudes presents features which could not have been foreseen in the light of Old Testament scripture. There the kingdom in its glory had been foreseen, but here we find it is to assume a new character, in which it will exist before the glory arrives. The second parable, that of the wheat and tares, shows that while the kingdom exists through the sowing of good seed by the Son of Man, the devil will also be a sower and his children will be found amongst the children of the kingdom. It sets forth the fact that until the hour of judgment arrives, when the Son of Man shall purge all the evil out of his kingdom, there is going to be, in one word, mixture. In this parable, the field is the world. 38, be it remembered, so there is no thought here of the church being a place where the children of the wicked one must needs be tolerated. The kingdom indicates a sphere wider than the church, and there is no possibility of disentangling things in the world till the Lord comes. Then, by angelic service at the end of the age, the evil will be consigned to the burning. The wheat is to be gathered into the barn. In his explanation, the Lord goes further, and speaks of the righteous shining forth as the sun in their Father's kingdom. By using this figure the Lord put the saints in a heavenly position, so we are not surprised when later we find the heavenly calling fully revealed. It is interesting to notice the Lord speaking in this parable of the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of the Son of Man, and the kingdom of your Father, showing that the kingdom is one however it may be designated. It has however different departments, if we may so speak, and hence may be viewed in different ways. The third parable, that of the mustard seed, shows that the kingdom is to be marked by development. It will grow and become imposing before men's eyes, but become a shelter for agents of evil, for in the first parable, when explaining the fowls, the Lord said, "Then comes the wicked one," and we know how Satan works through human agents. The fourth parable, comprised in just one verse, 33, shows that, as we might expect from what we have just seen, the kingdom will be gradually permeated by corruption. In Scripture, leaven is used consistently as a figure of what is corrupting. This is the one place where some are wishful to make it mean what is good. But that is because they have a system of interpretation which demands such a meaning. The gospel, they think, is going to permeate the world with good. This sudden violation of the meaning of leaven should have warned them that their thoughts which demand it are wrong. Here, then, the Lord is teaching us that the kingdom as viewed by man will be in such a form that it is marked by mixture, by development into an imposing institution in the earth, where agents of evil will find a home, and consequently there will be a process of permeation by the evil. He spoke as a prophet indeed, for just what he predicted has come to pass in that sphere on earth, where professedly the rule of heaven is owned. But in the privacy of the house the Lord added to his disciples 3 further parables. Here we have the kingdom from the divine standpoint, and if our eyes are anointed we too shall see in it what God sees. First, we shall see that there is something of hidden value. The field here is still the world, and the Lord has bought it, with a view to securing the hidden treasure in it. This buying must be distinguished from redeeming, for evil men may go so far as denying the Lord that bought them. 2 Peter 2 verse 1. They were bought but not redeemed, or they would not go on to swift destruction. The kingdom is established that the hidden treasure in the world may be secured. Again, there is the parable of the one pearl of great price. In the kingdom as it exists today, there is to be found and purchased this object, marked in the divine eye by unique perfection. Here doubtless we have in figure that which the Lord is going to speak of in Matthew 16, as my church. True, he has bought the field, but also he has bought the pearl, and in both cases he represents himself as selling all he has to do so. He yielded up everything to achieve his object, in the spirit of 2 Corinthians 8 verse 9. We cannot purchase Christ by the selling of our worthless all. It is what he has done for us. It is what he will gain through the kingdom of heaven in its present mysterious form. Lastly, it is like the dragnet gathering fish out of the sea of nations. All kinds are gathered, but we see discriminate selection exercised. There is a similarity between this and the parable of the wheat and tares, inasmuch as in both cases there is a disentanglement accomplished by angels at the end of the age. The wicked are severed from the just and cast into the furnace of fire. But there is also a distinct difference, for in the former parable the wicked are in the world as the result of Satan's sowing, whereas here the word of the kingdom goes out among the nations like a net, and people of all kinds profess to receive it. At the end of the age discrimination will be made, the true elect of God will be gathered in, and the evil rejected. How important that we should ever keep before us what the kingdom is like from the divine standpoint. It has taken on this peculiar character as a result of the rejection of the true Son of David, and his consequent absence in the heavens. In spite of the mixture and corruption which will mark it outwardly, there is to be this inward work of God which will result in his obtaining the hidden treasure, the pearl of great price, and all the good fish which the net encloses. Have we understood all these things? The disciples felt that they had, yet later when they had received the Spirit, they may have discovered how very little they had done so. We too realize doubtless how little we have done so, for the kingdom in its present form is not understood as easily as it will be when it is unveiled in public display. Things predominate which are wholly new from an Old Testament standpoint, hence we read, things new and old, not old and new. The emphasis lies on new. This chapter closes with Jesus back in his own district, and there at that time they were quite unbelieving. They did not see in him Emmanuel, or even the son of Abraham, the son of David. To them he was just the son of the carpenter, with whose relations they were so very familiar. Their unbelieving familiarity caused them to stumble at him. His power was unabated, but their unbelief imposed a restraint upon its exercise, just as the unbelief of Joash, the king of Israel, imposed a limit upon his victories. See 2 Kings 13 verses 14 to 19.